Hello everyone. Welcome to the Startup and Career Show. This is the podcast where we discuss about the professional journeys of distinguished leaders across the spectrum, including startup founders, corporate leaders, authors who share their real life experiences. Today we have with us Mr. Rakesh Dewan, Chairman of Morgan Bearings India. He is a serial entrepreneur, an industrialist, and an author. A very warm welcome, Rakesh. Glad to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Rakesh is going to share insights on his illustrious journey as a serial entrepreneur, as well as his new book, Take the Chance, where he goes on to explain why not to say no when we can indeed say yes to various situations or opportunities that life throws at us. So, Rakesh, to begin with, would request you if you could share your professional journey all these years, right from your corporate world to being an entrepreneur.
Right. Thank you, Rishabh. I come from a family which, who have all served in the corporate world. And that I think was a kind of family background and the culture. And I followed suit in the sense that post my education as an economist, I joined as a senior management trainee in the DCM group at that time. I found that things moved pretty quick and fast. And 2 years later, I had, of course, left DCM and joined American Universal, which was a company with its ground in America and in the FHP motor business in India. The first one to enter this business was them. So I found that I got my breaks pretty quick and fast, faster than I expected. And by the time I was age 29, as I mentioned somewhere, I was the head of that company, the motor division. I was not a engineer, no credentials to be there, but whatever it was, time, chance, opportunity, I got it. And then the next 10 years I spent in that space, in that company, as a chief executive, having to turn it around because the company was making losses, had about 2,000 employees and so on. And clearly at 29, I was among the youngest of the team, at that point. So in the first 2 years of being with them, I was able to sort of change the fortunes of the company and found that we went back into black from being in the red. And then I served the company for another 8 years. That means 10 years all as chief executive. And then I left. So that is as far as my corporate part is concerned. The second part, of course, was becoming entrepreneur, So I had been thinking of that 3 years prior to when I left the company. Didn't want to leave them in a lurch. So worked with them, let them know that I was there for the next 3 years. I told them in advance. And then, started my journey as an entrepreneur. So as probably you know, one day you find that you are sitting on 2,000 people, you ring the bell and there's plenty of people to answer the bell. And the next day when you take this leap of faith, I would say, you become an entrepreneur, you start your business, and unless you have a ready-made business, all this motivational, stuff, which is I want to be on my own and all that, sounds very glamorous. I can tell you with conviction that it's not. It's not. Being an entrepreneur is you face the realities of what it means, and then suddenly you kick yourself as to why the hell did you do what you did. So as an entrepreneur, in the beginning, I thought I would get into merchant trading, because obviously it doesn't need that kind of investments and so on. You just need move. However, that movement did not take place. And for the first 9 months, basement, waiting. Those days there were faxes and there were this modern communication was not there. Waiting every day for the fax to ring and something to emerge, did not emerge. And then I said, all right, I can't keep sitting waiting for orders to come in, so let me move. And then from there, the movement started, and I wanted to, start business with Russia. And in the same area that I was, which was home appliances and motors, and wasn't getting a break, but in the defense ministry there, they were the ones running the production for these items. So I went to Moscow and I landed in the morning, and I'd been in touch with them earlier. But when I went there, I discovered that the minister, deputy minister, who was in charge of these areas in the defense ministry, was leaving for India the same evening. It just happened to be. So I had come all the way, and the man who I wanted to meet and talk to wasn't going to be there. So the first thing I did was go get my flight changed to return the same evening on the same aircraft, and hopefully with the opportunity to meet him and move forward. So that's what it was. It just turned out to be an opportunity to meet him, because a 3-hour flight, and he was virtually alone, spoke only the Russian language, not the English language, and so there were hurdles to this thing. But at the end of it, that one journey changed my entry into the export market, so to say, for this thing. So by the time we came to the Indian airport and met for lunch and so on, a bond had been created. And from that bond, I never had to look back as far as this one initiative is concerned. Russian business, within 1 year, had touched 100 crores, and we were officially recognized export house. 100 crores those days meant a lot more than what it means today. I'm talking more than 30 years ago. So that time it was big.
Absolutely.
And then once we had got a step in, then from Russia, we moved to other areas, other products. And I found that I was representing many, many large Indian companies in the same space. So for color picture tubes, for example, all the manufacturers of color picture tubes in India, made me their official agent, not one, all. So if the Russians had to come into India, there was no way they could do, without my support, so to say. So like that, this is one part of the entrepreneurial journey which got covered, and I had established export house. At the same time, I had always wanted to get into manufacturing. As I told you, I was in motors, and I was known in the industry. So a lot of colleagues who were there, because this company in motors, which I was American Universal, got sold to GE Motors. So as far as GE is concerned, they are a large company, and their footprint was already there. But they took over, they bought the company over. So now I set myself a goal, which was that we would be larger than GE in India at least. That is a big goal at that time. We didn't have the financial resources and all that, and that struggle I'll tell you later. But step by step, the GE team, in fact, many of the members of that decided to join me because they felt that that the passion was there, and there's a little difference between a startup, which you're doing, and established MNCs, because MNCs have their own systems and so on. So that was the advent into manufacturing, and then we did, in 2 years' time, become the largest in India, larger than GE and so on. So that another part of the journey unfolded. And thirdly, I'm just mentioning there were many, but the thirdly, beyond a point, after 5 years, I did not want to continue working, even for myself, in the conventional space. I want to do something that makes a difference to others, and to all the knowledge that I had spent and acquired. And I was already in 30s at that time. So I went to the US, and I spent time with Jack Canfield, who's a motivational speaker and Chicken Soup for the Soul author and so on. One of the best resources in the world, right? So that, and then I went to the Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University, to tone up my understanding of leadership, my understanding of, so many techniques and knowledge transfers that took place, invaluable. So they happened because I went there. I just was seeking that. And then I came back and I started my workshops, created an academy called the Star Academy, and started workshops which were focused on leadership, teamwork, self-empowerment, and so on. I mean, You could apply it for yourself, you could apply it for the company, you could apply it anywhere. But the basic tools were available. So that was another part. And that's how my journey has been, running fields. So I was in the manufacturing, I was, of course, in trading, and then I was in retail as well. And so little blocks of each sector. And but wherever we were, we did succeed in becoming the biggest in the country. So
Wow.
whatever we touched, we did not settle for second best. We settled for being the best there was in India, at least.
Wow, this is awesome, Rakesh, because especially when you're a startup and when you have a goal of becoming as big or bigger than GE, for example, at least in the Indian market, that itself was a huge goal. When you started out, right? I mean, so that's a
Indeed, and another major part of that, which I look back with some satisfaction, is that we also, even in manufacturing, we had customers outside India, and 60% of our turnover came from exports. So these were multinational buyers and had access to all, whether the Chinese or the Americans or whatever else. But we managed to do that, and managed to do that with very, very less resources, because that's one of the biggest problems in the beginning. It was not the way startups are today, which you can get funded by on. You couldn't raise finance and say, all right, I'm 2 years in this business and I have a good vision, but can I take some money off you? You can't. So I had to encounter that.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you became a startup founder when the startup word was not a buzzword in itself, right?
Right, absolutely, absolutely, and that was the problem, because you start something, it's okay, but you have a vision of becoming world class without money. I can tell you, it is a very, very uphill task.
True, true,
So,
true.
but we started climbing, and then somehow we have climbed. So we
But
managed to
But Rakesh, I
cross the
want
road.
to ask you the question because I read this in the
Yeah.
book as well, right? About your trip to Russia, the first ever, right? So if you can just throw some little more light, because and I'm intrigued to ask you this because what can a startup make a person do? So you fly back to Moscow and you get to know that the person is coming to India. You take the same flight, if you can just go back in time and analyze what made you take those decisions because it's not a small decision per se.
So, as far as I'm concerned, I am guided by my instincts, and I'm guided by a desire to do. And if I want to do, then I don't stop. I don't stop. Speed is one of the, I think, resources. It doesn't cost money to do it fast, but it is intention. You need to have that intention, and you need to not to be overwrought. So, uh, meeting the minister, defense minister, for the first time, and striking at this thing and doing it immediately in the same day, which means that you've gone and you've got a flight back. So it's not that you measure, or I measured as a strategy. It's something that comes instinctively. It came instinctively and I decided to back myself. So that's one of the things I do. I back myself very, very much. So in the bargain, sometimes there are losses and sometimes there are wins. So as long as the wins outweigh the loses, losses, we are okay. So that's all. I mean, on the Russian trip, all that I discovered was that had I not acted with that kind of speed, I
Hmm.
wouldn't have, that opportunity was not mine. It got created because I did. And when you sit next to a person for 3.5 hours, and then things do change. It changed. So that's
Absolutely.
what I can tell you.
That was awesome. So actually, bookmark that portion, because I found this very because I've done so many conversations with different startup founders, and
Right.
whenever something different comes up, I do try and pinpoint those areas. And so this was one of that portion I found it because it meant a lot of conviction for somebody to take that decision, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And that
sure.
too
I,
in
I
those
agree
days.
with that. I agree with that. I mean, it was conviction and backing your conviction and knowing that if you stick with it, something will come out of it. I didn't know what will be the end result at that time. I didn't know.
True.
But the end result turned out to be far greater than I could have ever expected, actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Rakesh, coming to the book that you've written, right? Take the chance. So, what made you write this book in the first place, if I may ask?
Certainly, you should ask, and I'm happy that you're asking. Um, all my life, I told you that I went into doing these workshops when I went to US, learned from Jack Canfield and then the Kennedy School. So I'd empowered myself. And the one common thing I discovered is that ultimately, if you really want to create something worthwhile, then you have to take a risk. You have to go out of the comfort zone, and you have to take those chances, because if you're going to stick to the straight and narrow and do what will come automatically, you'll go so far, but it is not something that you can ensure that you'll be able to cross a certain hurdle or outrun other people. You're not the only one running. There are so many people running. Opportunities are what they are. So take the chance is the recognition of that 20 years of working with people, doing all these workshops, with the primary understanding that if you you can only take the chance if you get out of the comfort zone, right? Comfort zone, you understand, everybody understands that habitually, whatever we are comfortable doing, that is what we do more often than not. We think it's our skill, it's our win area. So let me stick to that. So we may be exposed to a certain industry or a certain kind of environment where we think we've got a better chance, and we carry on with that. But actually, the limitations are the limitations of the comfort zone. We continuously do what we have always done, supposing that becomes our habit, that we go to the, it might look like it's a very intelligent move, this, going into that and doing something that celebrates your own strength. But in reality, you skip out so many opportunities if only you had gone into what we call the discomfort area. Comfort area is within your own skill set. Discomfort happens when you go out, like from a prison where you feel safe, but then you open the door, find a way to open the door, open the key, and walk out. And then in a world where you have to again reinvent yourself, that world is an uncomfortable world. It's not a comfortable world. So to be able to recognize that whenever I'm really feeling uncomfortable, then I'm now operating out of my comfort zone, because people can have academic discussions on comfort zone, but it doesn't really tell you what to do and how to get out of it. So I don't know whether I can use this forum for giving you a small demo on this breaking the comfort zone, so that you would
Yes,
know.
please. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you just need to follow me, and
Sure.
now watch my hands. You bring your hands together like this. So you're going to be my subject right now. So then go like this. Go like this. Yeah. Choose to see whether your right thumb is on top or left thumb is on top.
Left.
Remember it. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Disengage. Disengage. Do it again. Do it one more time. Same thumb came on top. Did the same thumb come on top? Okay,
yes.
Great. All right. So then you can disengage right now and relax for a while. Just bring your hands together. Now, yeah. In the old way. Now rearrange your finger and thumbs once again, like this. Change it. Is that comfortable or uncomfortable?
A little uncomfortable, I would say.
A little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So what would you prefer to do if you had a chance?
Now, possibly I'll go with this uncomfortable setting. Otherwise, I would have gone through the comfortable one.
Yeah, right. So there's an immediate human response. There's no right way or wrong way. There's only a habitual way, right? So when we keep doing an action again and again, in whichever way we do, we form a neural passage in our brain, which reconfirms to us that we are in the right direction, because the neural passage is deep. And as long as we repeat the same action the way we've always been doing it habitually, then we'll find ourselves comfortable. Okay? So what it shows is, if you hang on with this physical exercise and keep your hands in the uncomfortable position for 5 minutes only, 5 minutes, you will find that your brain has adapted, and now you are as comfortable as you were the first time. 100%. So in real life, life is not about doing exercises. Life is about living and finding. So it may not be 5 minutes in real life. When you are feeling this discomfort, it may not be. As soon as anybody steps out of the comfort zone, this sense of discomfort will come. It may take 1 month, it may take 3 weeks, it may take 6 months to adapt. But certainly, if you are able to hang out that period and not get discouraged and not yield to this temptation to go back to the comfortable area, then you will find that you can. Then there are no limitations. The barriers that stop you from moving have gone because we have decided that we are not getting daunted by the barriers. So the moment I discovered that, part of in the book too, also in real life, as a life coach, this is the one training that I really emphasize, which is how to get out of the comfort zone and how to welcome discomfort. In other words, people who really take the chance, who can take the chance, are only people who are willing to be uncomfortable for some time. If you want to be comfortable all the way through, then those big opportunities are going to find it much more difficult to get. But those who adapt and say, all right, I'll also take the chance, whatever the chance may be. And the chance is not only for being successful, it's a chance for in life, whatever it could be. It could be about relationship, it could be about anything. When we take a chance, all it means is that we are willing to try new, innovative ways of handling the situation, and then things turn around. So comfort zone. So just take the chance. The book I have written it with the intention of people to discover that why am I hanging back, worried about jumping off? I need to be on the cliff. I need to be able to jump off. I need to be able to let go. Don't need to overthink about what the consequences will be. And if I've taken the jump and then stayed outside the comfort zone, then the opportunity to regather and make something great out of it is definitely possible.
Wow, such an inspirational one, Rakesh. No doubt about it.
Thank you.
And in fact, Rakesh, the book cover that you have, right? You've written a beautiful caption as well. It says, "Don't say no if you can indeed say yes." And you've shared few illustrations as well. So I would request you if you could share some of them for our listeners, maybe one or two.
All right. So I'm going to give you one or two examples, and I'll give it to you from my life itself or from my own experiences.
Sure.
Where this yes has given me results which no would not. So one of them, let's say, was yes to taking the chance and not getting daunted, saying yes to challenges and all that. I mean, opening myself to the possibility of being destroyed, and yet welcoming that this thing. So that positive approach to upsets in life, right? So I was heading that factory, which I told you, and we had put that factory in Baddi, which is about 100 kilometers or 80 kilometers from Chandigarh, 70, 80 kilometers in Himachal Pradesh. So one day I came home, and it was my birthday next morning. And, I was reading some articles. I'm a Buddhist by conviction. And so I was reading that, and the title of the book was, "Today Again, I Will Not Be Defeated." That was the title of the book that I was reading. So that thought had got into my head. Anyway, I practiced this, so I will not be defeated. 12 o'clock at night, there's a call from my factory, and the general manager calls me and says, "Sir, we are finished." I was a little taken aback. "What do you mean I've finished?" He says, "Sir, the factory has caught fire." It was a 3.5-story large factory. Completely razed, completely. I mean, that was the only factory at that time we had. Later on, we added many plants, but that. So, and he says, "We are finished because it's all burned down." So I told him, spontaneously it came up to me, and at 12 o'clock at night, I said, "No, we are not finished. One plant has burned down. That is the factual position. We are not finished. You are alive. I am alive. We can still do. Tomorrow morning, I'll come over, and then let's see what we can do." So next morning, I caught a train and went there. When I reached there, TV cameras, fire engines, all of that. It was absolutely ruined. But I can tell you, Rashid, I mean, in terms of my mental response, I must have spent maximum 2 minutes watching this whole thing as if it was an outside phenomena. Not that my factory was burning, but a factory was burning and so on. And then I turned around and I called the team. So they expected that I would be shattered by actually seeing what I was seeing, that, all our investments gone to, we didn't have that kind of money. So I told them, I said, it was the month of September, which is near Diwali. And we were in the home appliance business as part of the businesses, which meant that we make mixies and coolers and all these various kitchen appliances. And we were OEMs to many large companies, brands. So they looked at, I said, in 3 days, we want a running plant again. How can you create a plant in 3 days? It's a preposterous statement to make, first of all. It's not possible, not doable. Anyway, I said 3 days, 3 days. And, lot of help came from the environment, and we leased out a plant. Obviously, you can't create a plant, and did everything that we could. That month, September, in these circumstances which I'm describing to you, was our month in which we had the highest ever production in the history of our company. That when the whole factory had burned down. So this yes to I will not be defeated, this yes to fighting it regardless of what. So when you do that, then your team is inspired by the same kind of sentiment. No, I mean, they didn't have a defeated leader. They had somebody who was saying, all right, let's do it. And then our customers were amazed. Everybody was amazed. How do you do when you don't have a plant anymore? So, but in the plant that we so-called temporary plant, highest ever production in the history of the company. So this actually brings home that thing that you have to say yes to challenges. And so you have to say yes to taking the chance, regardless of what your brain tells you that it's not possible. Will not be defeated must translate into some action that again brings you to life. And we came back to life, and how. And so that is one example. And I'll show you one quickly, the next example. And the next example was saying yes to doing things differently. You doing things differently. All right. So we were basically competing with China. And China, the Chinese hands work very fast. The labor is very committed and does the job it's supposed to do. Indian labor, we trained them, motivated them, but there was a limit. They have their whatever tea or talk or whatever else, but they don't work continuously. It's not like this. So I decided that I must change the culture of my company, and therefore I got Chinese workers from a plant which is manufacturing motors, similar to what I was doing. I got a Chinese general manager and gave them a line in my plant. And then I had this Indian teams versus the Chinese team, but in my own plant. And now every day on the board, the Chinese team would normally outperform us by 2x. If we could do 100, they were doing 200. The Indian teams, first of all, thought this is, when they saw that actually they were being outperformed, then the little pride which everybody has, they could not allow the Indians to be shamed like they were being shamed. Didn't have to say one word. Over a period of 2 months and then over a period of 1 year, our productivity went to the Chinese level. And today we can compete with China on pricing, on plant, on everything, mainly because we demonstrated to our people. No lectures, not one single word, just the physical proof. And so that's another one that I found that we did, which was out of the box, but based on the same philosophy of take the chance, travel the road less traveled, and don't continue to beat the horse. No, there's no requirement of that. Make donkeys become horses. So when donkeys become horses, then of course things change.
This is awesome, Rakesh, because this is really unconventional.
Yeah, really. I haven't heard of this, and I found time and again that when you do the unconventional thing with conviction, then the results you get are a lot different if you were to follow the normal road.
True. Absolutely. So, Rakesh, from the outside, your journey seems to be such a wonderful one with multiple startups. You had a successful exit as well. but you would have faced many roadblocks, right? I mean, the one that you faced was the plant completely burned down. But apart from it, there was something else as well, right? The challenges that you would have faced. Maybe if you could share some of them, and how did you overcome those
Yeah, yeah,
areas?
yeah. I'll be happy to do that. I mean, there are different businesses. Challenges were different, but one common challenge was finance.
Hmm.
Didn't have the money to back up this vision, and so many we say calling yourself a serial entrepreneur sounds exciting. The reality is you're dealing with multiple businesses, and one common thing requires you can't be the number one in India without having money to set up.
True.
So that was one thing. So how does one get overcome that? One organization is another common challenge. I mean, in the beginning, people, not everybody wants to join you a startup, and it was not a startup world those days. It was a world where people preferred the security of a MNC and so on to join. If you ask a young man, where do you want to join? He's not going to join a fledgling company. He will join an established company. And so I discovered one strength, and that strength is that if you treat your partners, whoever the partners are, including your suppliers, including your buyers, including the financial institutions, including the banks, everybody. They were, I mean, we were so transparent with them in everything. Didn't try tricks. I have, I mean, and now my children are also in the business, but actually telling you, people don't believe it in India also. We don't try to influence the environment with any other inducements at all. That's a no, 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 no. Transparency is a yes, 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 yes. Actual part. So when you build relationships of trust with different ones, the response comes. So as far as I'm concerned, the roadblocks and all that started moving away when some of them realized that we were passionate and that we could do it and that we would do it. And then they teamed up. I mean, we had banks after us, not the other way around. Even
Wow.
though we were startups, so and we got all the help and in record time. So we needed at that time for the export business something like 5 crores for a short period because we were dealing in that quantity. 2 days for a multinational nationalized Indian bank to do that without any inducement is very, very difficult. I can tell you 2 days because I needed it. They gave it to me. They went out of the way. So that philosophy paid off, removing the roadblocks on the way, whether the financial or they were organizational or whatever else. And then there's one thing that I wanted to share with you on this only. So the other part was, as I said, to adversity, I've told you, but to innovation.
Hmm.
For example, the technology used in my plants, for example, were state of the art, but modified state of the art. I did not buy the best equipment from the best this thing. So this use of technology, innovation, the human mind, I think we have used and harnessed creativity very well. So that creative thing, when you can harness, then all the employees who are with you work as a force much stronger than one can possibly, dream. So step by step we did, and then we found that we had become number one in our area of business as far as manufacturing is concerned. Certainly number one in terms of merchant exports, also in retail, all that. So success came in many ways, but it came through basically transparency, trust, and empowerment. Uh, Trusting your own people,
Hmm.
and slowly you develop the reputation when you do not oblige people as a way of going forward,
Yeah.
but choose to be collaborative, be a partner actually,
Hmm.
then things work in a different way. So I think we've been able to demonstrate the success of true trust and partnerships.
Oh, absolutely, Rakesh. I think it's been wonderful speaking to you. And even when I was reading the book, as I mentioned you earlier, I just finished it off in around 2.5 days flat, where I just
Thank
couldn't
you.
keep the book aside. It was such with such interesting stories and real life experiences, not only from your end, but also, there was
Right.
so many other
Absolutely.
distinguished leaders as well that you've covered. So it was amazing read as well. So Rakesh,
Thank you.
I think it's like a Bible, for somebody starting up new to go through these things. I'm sure it will provide them tons and tons of wisdom as well. So Rakesh, before you leave, just last advice that you would want to give to the early, startup founders who would be venturing it for the first time.
I mean, I don't know about what one single piece of advice to give like that, but what strikes me, of course, is amongst all the different beliefs, to be an entrepreneur, you should, any entrepreneur should be willing to undergo a certain amount of discomfort. That's for sure. I mean, it's not all comfortable. It cannot be. And two, the role of self-belief, backing your own self,
Hmm.
is a necessity. If one wants to do it on the strength of other people and hold the rope, it's not possible. We need to believe that I'm going to jump off. I'll have to create. I'll make mistakes. I will have failures. But it's okay. I'm going to say yes to all these, to failure, I must say yes to all this before, it's not a matter of only being successful in life. So that whatever they plan to do, they must actually believe in that. If they don't believe and just take on the first thing that they think is going to work out, then that is something that's not the best way of doing it. The best way of doing it is to search around, know what you want to do, and then you may not know, but you should know where you want to go. That is the first important thing. Where
So
do I want to go? I mean, the same questions you asked me, they'll be asking themselves, and hopefully 2 3 years around, they'll find their own feet and they'll find their goals. So yeah.
absolutely, Rakesh. Thank you, Rakesh, for taking out time today. It was lovely speaking to you on this podcast today. Excellent.
Thank you
Thank you.
so very much. I enjoyed being on the show too. Thank you.
Great. So to all our listeners as well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Goodbye. Signing off for now.